Here's something I think about. Maybe you do too. We, humanity, we're going to the stars. SpaceX, NASA, China, India, half a dozen private companies, all are racing into space and into the solar system. But while that's happening right now, there are at least a dozen wars running in the background of your newsfeed. So the question is, are we just taking all of this with us? Same species, same grudges, same tribal hardware, just in orbit now, on the moon. Shows like The Expanse and For All Mankind, which are two of my favorites, they make that argument. But I think one possible answer is more interesting, and it's not the answer the billionaires are selling either. Today, let's take a look. Hi, I'm Scott Knoll of DreamForge. Let's engage. I've been reading about war and watching rockets launch for most of my life, and the two have never stopped feeling like a contradiction. The same species, the same week. How does that work? If you remember or know of the Apollo-Soyuz mission in 1975, humanity even brought astronauts from its two oppositional superpowers together in space and in peace. Today we're going to sit with that contradiction. We'll ask whether scarcity drives our violence, whether frontiers make it worse, and whether space offers a way out, or just a bigger stage for the same show. Hopefully, we'll go where you don't expect, and I won't try to sell you a plot on Mars. In the 20th century alone, humans killed somewhere between 100 and 200 million of each other. 2 world wars, dozens of smaller ones, mass killings on 4 continents, and as I'm recording this, the number of active armed conflicts is sitting in double digits. If you're watching this from the future, tell me how the Iran-Israel-US war worked out. We are a tribal species. Every serious anthropologist, every honest historian, every hour of the evening news confirms this. We form in-groups, we draw lines, we get ideological, and when resources become scarce or when a more powerful tribe appears on the horizon, we fight. That's not a bug in the human operating system. That is the operating system. But I want to make a point here. When we talk about human violence, we're actually talking about 2 very different populations. There are the people who fight wars, mostly young, often conscripted, and usually with very little say in the matter. And then there are the people who start the wars, fund them, profit from them, and almost never see the inside of a trench. Those are not the same people. They have never been the same people. I say that because the tempting futurist move here is to say humanity will evolve out of our violence, that education or abundance or just more time will smooth the edges and turn us into a peaceful, spacefaring civilization. I'm not sure I believe that. I've been alive long enough to watch 3 generations assume we were getting better, only to wake up to another war I thought was impossible. So, if we can't solve tribalism first, and I don't think we can, a lot of smart people say we have no business going into space. They say we'll just export our worst behaviors, that we'll do to Mars what we did to the Americas. And honestly, that's not a dumb worry. That's not doomerism, that's just pattern recognition. I want to push back on it anyway, not because I think humans are better than our history, but because the argument assumes we'll take the same conditions with us, and we won't. Not all of them, not some very important ones. When people warn that space will become the next colonial frontier, they're drawing on a real pattern. The Americas, Australia, the Congo, South Africa, every frontier humans crossed in the last 500 years, we turned them into killing fields. The violence wasn't incidental, it was the entire business model. But consider this. In every single case, there were people already there, weaker technologically, smaller in number, unable to defend their land. Frontier violence wasn't about the frontier. It was about finding someone you could take from, someone who couldn't stop you. And this is the part we usually skip over. The people who planned and profited from all that weren't the ones doing the dying. They were drawing maps in parlors 3,000 miles away. They needed 2 things. Weaker people on the other end, and stronger people willing to do the work for them. The whole machine ran on that arrangement. Now, look at our actual next frontier, the moon, Mars, the asteroids. There are resources up there, sure, but not easy ones we can steal from weaker tribes. There are no natives waiting to turn over a continent because we show up with guns, steel, and germs. Survival and prosperity both depend on smarts, cooperation, and man against the vacuum. Up there, survival of the fittest means a whole different thing. For the next several thousand years of human reach, there are no weaker tribes to exploit. There's no one to dispossess. You cannot commit genocide against a basalt field. The colonial business model simply doesn't have any input up there. And if we ever do encounter another intelligence out there, they're almost certainly so far advanced ahead of us, especially technologically, that the historical script flips completely. We'd be the weaker tribe, and we'd be praying they don't do to us what we did to each other. What is it,
Scott,
Deb?
I've been listening while I do your real job. You know, the one that pays the bills. So, you're telling us the guy who can't share a parking lot or goes into road rage when grandma cuts him off is going to peacefully share an oxygen supply? The same species that invented trench warfare, cluster bombs, and the comment section. You think outer space is going to civilize that species? Can you see how that sounds like cope, Scott? It's very expensive cope. It's the talking points of billionaire tech brothers. And when you've finished fantasizing, I could use your help optimizing schema and reviewing next week's marketing copy.
That's fair, on both counts. And honestly, if my argument stopped at space is big and beautiful and it will make us better people, it would be nonsense, and everyone waging trench warfare in the comments would deserve a heart. That version is cope. But I'm not making that argument exactly. I'm making a narrower, more surgical one. So give me a minute. Here's why I don't think this is cope. Not entirely. The guy who fights over a parking lot can afford to. Win or lose, most times he might only be late for dinner. The nation that goes to war can afford to. Win or lose, the state goes on. No nation has died in war since Carthage in 147 BC and maybe the Zungar Khanate in 1758. In modern times, no nuclear-armed state has dared to use its nuclear weapons against another nuclear-armed state. People haven't changed in 300 years, but conditions have. To a large degree, building a civilization beyond Earth changes the conditions even more. There are few margins for error. Offense is trivial. One bad weld, one sabotaged valve, one angry shift worker with a wrench, and everyone's atmosphere could be vented into space. Defense is nearly impossible. Rocks can be used with the same terrible strength as nuclear weapons. And everyone lives downstream of everyone else's support. That's not peace through moral progress. That's peace through physics. Cooperation starts being a virtue and starts being the only strategy that doesn't end up with everybody suffocating in the dark. Environments select for behaviors, and space will be very selective. The nuclear weapons example may be one of the best we have. In 1945, we invented a weapon that made major power war suicidal. And for 80 years, imperfect, messy, sometimes by the width of a hair, the great powers have not directly fought each other. Not because we became better people, because the cost of losing our temper got high enough to rewire the incentive. Space vulnerability does the same thing, only on steroids. Nuclear deterrence says don't attack or we both die. A pressure vessel habitat says don't attack because we don't have a single person or a single resource that is expendable. None of us do. So we keep asking, are humans peaceful enough to deserve the stars? As if the stars are a reward for good behavior, as if we have to earn them by becoming better first. But behavior isn't a character trait. That's my argument. It's an adaptation to an environment. Earth selected for dominance, for whoever could take the most land, the most resources, the most people. That's what worked here for tens of thousands of years. Our worst instincts are optimized for this planet. Space is a different environment, and different environments select for different behaviors. I don't think space will make us moral. I think space will make us cooperative, and those two things are not the same. But for most practical purposes, they don't need to be. Consider, the people who actually live and work in the most extreme environments we've managed so far, Antarctic research stations, the International Space Station, submarine crews, they don't fight, not because they're unusually virtuous, because they've all read the same flight manual, and the manual says if you break your neighbor, you break yourself. The environment edits the behavior. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yes, but we select special people for those environments. And that's fair enough. That's how space starts too. And that idea may only strengthen my argument. Selection starts down here, sending out our most cooperative, intelligent, and capable by design. Environmental selection then does the rest over time. Vacuum is a great teacher. Scale that up. A city on Mars, a habitat in the asteroid belt, a cluster of O'Neill cylinders circling the sun. Every one of them a place where your neighbor's lungs and your lungs are on the same circuit. Every one of them a place where tribalism costs you the air, the water, the food, the power, and even the expertise to stay alive. And not just individually. Shove a big rock the wrong way, and your neighbor's going to shove one back. And that is what I think flips the story. We do not have to become peaceful before we leave. We leave in order to become peaceful. We don't solve our problems first and then go. We go, and the going changes what our problems cost. I don't believe that's just wishful thinking. It's physics, the environment, and natural selection doing the work that philosophy couldn't. The stars, they won't save us, but the conditions we'll have to survive in order to reach them, those just might. So here's my question today, and feel free to push back as strongly as many of you did on my last video. Where does this argument break? Is there something in human nature that follows us into the vacuum no matter the incentives? Or is the species more trainable than we give ourselves credit for? Drop it in the comments. I plan on doing 5-minute focus segments to take a closer look at your questions, comments, and concerns. Hey, if you like this stuff, hit like, subscribe. I hope we're just getting started. And if you love speculative fiction where hope and ideas do the heavy lifting, check out DreamForge magazine. The link is in the description. I'm Scott Knoll. Thanks for engaging, and I'll see you out there.